Hey everybody, welcome to our Healing Voices podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Aaron Lehman, and today I'm really excited to be interviewing Elizabeth Oldershaw for episode 12. And those of you who are brand new to the Our Healing Voices podcast and YouTube channel, the main goal of this community that I'm seeking to create and co-create with others is to help us realize and remember that there's a lot of courageous warriors that are self-healing, that are helping other people heal, and that care a lot about the same things we do. Sometimes I have felt, I know when I was in massage school back in 2006 and was getting into some of the books I was reading, I'm thinking, is anybody reading this stuff? Like, I'd go to, be reading these things, then I'd go out on the town, and I'm like, I don't think anybody's reading what I'm reading, and maybe it was a little egoic judgment perhaps that would pop up in there, but more than anything, what I've come to realize over this last 15 years is there's actually a lot of people that are really daily or weekly or, are doing intentional things to heal and to take care of themselves and to improve their overall wellness, their body, mind, spirit wellness. And I just want us to know that we're not the only ones. I think that's one of the biggest motivators. And the other motivator is that our voices are so huge and so important. And so whether you're listening to this and this is your first episode, your voice is so critical. And your stories and what's made you, and your unique talents and gifts, your voice is so huge and so important. And so by interviewing different people every week or every other week as this podcast rolls on, for me, it's about let's hear what's going on. Let's hear what people are working through so that we can look at each other with a little more humility and a little more compassion and realize whoo, okay, we're actually family, instead of walking around and our egoic voices that are just judging and pointing fingers and blaming. And, I think the more we hear the stories of one another and hear each other's stories, I think it's oh, okay. I think compassion might be the only option right now, So anyway, that's a little bit of a long intro, but, really excited to have you join us and really excited to have Elizabeth joining me today. And just really looking forward to our conversation, Elizabeth. You and I have, crossed paths here this last 5 years or so via this Young Living Oily world, and our families have been involved in that world. And then we got to hang out last summer at a retreat over here in California and had a blast together and really got to connect and really just, I felt like a really sacred, safe space together that the five of us created. And so that was a really big highlight. And then here in this last year, you've had these you intuitively were feeling that that I was struggling, and you knew it, and you reached out to me, and I felt like that was awesome and special for me. Because again, part of that journey, right, as we're healing and growing and learning, is it's really nice to know that somebody's got your back, somebody's looking out, checking in on you. So anyway, I'm really excited to have you here, and I would love for us to love for you to start us off, just kind of as your what's your current reality? What's Elizabeth up to these days? I know you're really into yoga and teaching yoga and supporting people on their wellness journeys. What are just a few things, and you're working on a book or almost done with a book. So I'd love to hear more about that. But currently kind of what's new and flowing? What are your days looking like?
Thanks, Aaron. I am so excited to be here with you. I'm really excited that you are allowing me to be part of your podcast. So that is awesome. Mm-hmm. For me right now, we are mostly quarantining. So I stopped teaching yoga. I used to have a little yoga room in my house, and I would teach yoga a couple nights a week. And I haven't done that now since March. I'm still practicing myself, but having people over and that kind of thing is not really happening. And it makes me feel kind of sad because I miss the camaraderie. I miss people coming over and opening a bottle of wine or having a cup of coffee and just sitting around my table and talking.
Mm.
So right now I am mostly working on my book, getting that wrapped up. There's lots of little intricacies that I was not completely aware of. Like I thought, oh, I'll just, write my words down. And now it's like, oh, I need to figure out cover design, and I need to have a couple of people look at and edit and give honest feedback. And so I'm dealing with that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think because you are too, but I'm a Reiki master, so I've been doing still some healing work with a few different clients. That's been really good for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5 kids.
Yeah.
3 of them are in college right now, and then my 2 youngest are 13, going on 25. So that always keeps me super busy.
Mm-hmm. And are they virtually doing school right now, or are they getting to go to a site?
Yes. So one of them is doing Primavera online. She does better on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So we switched to that last year without COVID,
Mm-hmm.
being a thing. But then my other daughter is she's an Aries, so she has to be around people, and she needs all the energy, and she gets really sad about the virtual online. She just wants to be with her friends, and it's so hard to learn looking at the computer, and so different people.
Yeah.
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 So right now we're just all virtual, which is okay.
Yeah. A whole new world.
Yeah.
A whole new world. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's, okay. Thanks for dropping me in on present reality. Yeah. Reiki master, still working on some folks. Yoga teaching has gone on quiet for a while, still doing your own practice. 3 kids in college.
Yeah. My Young Living business, of course, is amazing. And I love that. And I do AFT work, just a bunch of little things.
Yeah. Yeah, those of you who are listening, AFT is Aroma for Freedom technique.
Yes.
I don't know a ton about it. I know you know. What would you say about it?
Well, it's kind of part of my journey.
Yeah.
Aroma Freedom. I went to a yoga retreat, a Young Living yoga retreat back in March of 2017. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Benjamin Purkis was there, and he kind of gave us an introduction to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. So I came back and I shared it with all my friends. I'm like, we have to do this thing. And so we were at a coffee shop, Java Grounds, a local coffee shop, and I made everybody do it. And then he offered a certification for it. So I went through the certification actually 4 times because I kept not finishing it. My life kept getting in the way, and I would stop and not finish it. And I realized that a lot of the reason that I would stop and not finish is because I didn't really have the faith in myself or the trust in myself to actually complete it. So I finished it now a little over a year ago. And it's been awesome. I've been able to help people. The gist of it is that we have these memories stored in our subconscious that we don't really know about, that control our behavior, that make us hold back or keep ourselves small. And so by using essential oils, we're able to breathe in the scent to the memory, and we're able to dissolve the memory from having the control over our future behavior. In a nutshell.
Yeah. Yes. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
It's like
anything, right? Anything to release those shackles that, from way back in the day, where you're like, I thought that was gone.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm in therapy and I'm like, I'm crying right now. I was like, I thought I cried my last tear about that like 3 years ago. Why? How is that coming up right now?
Yeah, or even like something will pop up and I'll be like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And all of a sudden now I go, oh, I guess that was a thing.
Yeah.
we hide it from ourselves, and then when we're able to reveal it, then we're able to dissolve it. So it's
Yeah.
powerful.
So good. So good. Oh my. Well, I'm excited about all those beautiful offerings that you're sharing with folks, like tools, right? It's like I think that's the thing that I kind of wish that growing up in like schools that, that we were learning like tools to cope. And I was reading Thich Nhat Hanh this morning. He said something about like he's like if only our schools taught people how to suffer, like how to walk through their suffering.
Yeah.
Like if we learn some tools to be able to mindfully approach our suffering, but it's, I mean, again, so I appreciate these tools that that have helped you, and also now you're able to share and help others with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So good. Okay, so now my typical normal question is like, tell us about you. Like, what's the, where? So if you were to go back on, your life journey up till now, I feel like we've got many, many memories and many, you just shared many, many impactful moments and experiences from our life that impact how we're showing up. And I'm just curious, like, if there's two or three, as you've kind of been in your own self-healing journey or, your own healing journey, these, last 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, like, as you've been reflecting back, like what are some of have there been some specific moments where you're like, whoo, still breathing that out, or like, or this is big. Anyway.
Well, yeah. So for me, I think that it would be probably just this probably sounds bad, but like death.
Mm-hmm.
For me, about 22 years ago, I lost my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I was newly married. I think I was 19,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a baby. And so when my dad passed, that was a really big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 10 more years to my husband committing suicide. That was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I had at the time 5 babies. My oldest was 12 or 13, and then 10 and 9, and a 2 and 3-year-old. So that rocked my universe. Through that, I went through a lot of shedding and releasing of things that didn't actually fit me, things that I had put on that didn't belong to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent time shedding. I remarried when I was 35,
Mm-hmm.
and shortly after we were married in 2016, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And then we kind of went through a cancer journey of 20 months. And it ended with him passing in August of 2017. So that's actually what my book is about, is our cancer journey. That since then, I've done a lot of putting on, where I took the things off that didn't fit me. With losing my first husband, I've figured out who I am since the passing of my last husband, adding in the things that are important to me and becoming, I guess that's the best way to word it, becoming who I am, knowing who I am, and feeling confident in who I am.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, those 3 very big moments in your journey up till now.
Very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I'm hearing you share, and I'm thinking about folks that are listening or watching this, and as you said 22 years ago, losing your dad first, that, I mean, I haven't lost my dad yet. But even just so a parental parent, that I would imagine there's listeners that are curious, like, as you worked walked away from that initially, like how'd you process that? Was that an easier processing time versus, or, I mean, easy, let's be honest, death here as humans, it's like with all these memories and all these experiences and this connection. So anyway, I'm curious, like, just your reflections specifically on your losing your dad, what that was like for you.
So for me, I want to think about that answer for a second.
Yeah.
My parents got divorced when I was 4.
Okay.
And my dad shortly after, I don't know how much after, moved to California. So my mom lived in Arizona and my dad lived in California.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my relationship growing up with him was visiting. My mom used to call him Santa Claus Dad because he was great when he was around and we talked all the time. And so he was my refuge in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hit teenagehood, like most teenagers, I went through a rough patch, and he had me come live with him. And so living with him in high school was probably one of the coolest experiences that I had. He was a great teacher for me because he taught me little things like it's okay to cry, and we love everyone where they're at. And he had some struggles of his own. He was a recovered alcoholic, and he was gay. He passed of AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really difficult for him. And he ran this support group called Being Alive. And the Being Alive group was people who had HIV and AIDS and had that diagnosis. And just showing love in that community, the way that I saw him love everybody, regardless of anything. He just showed love. And if somebody would pass away, I can remember going to their house and collecting their medicines and wheelchairs and things like that so that he could pass it on to the next person who maybe needed those things. And it was just really powerful to see how he loved unconditionally. And I think that was one of the things that I miss the most. One of the things that I learned from him. I remember when I was in 6th grade, his partner passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting at the service and just starting to cry. And my dad said, "It's okay. Just cry it out. Just cry. You can cry. It's okay."
Mm-hmm.
And that was really powerful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time people say, "It's okay, don't cry." And he said, "It's okay, cry it out."
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, he sounds like I feel him right here, it's like, woo!
Yeah, he was a remarkable man. He is a remarkable soul and still very much part of my life.
Yeah. And I feel, it's, as you're describing him, it's like, I feel like you share that same sort of just open arms, like family energy. I mean, that for sure. So it's like, I think he's super proud of that's continuing, that it's like that you still are carrying that unconditional love, that, and that acceptance, and Woo! Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and then 5 children, and losing your first husband.
Yeah.
And just that, I mean, the thoughts, the reflections from there, after that, like, I mean, anyway,
so that's one that I'm still really processing. It wasn't as, for lack of a better word, cut and dry as you know, my dad was sick and then he died.
Yep.
Dave, my second husband, was sick and then he died.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of extra things going on, and so you didn't really see. I didn't really see what was happening. I didn't really see the progression. Now I can look back and see a lot of things where I can go, oh, that wasn't quite right. That wasn't quite normal. But in the grand scheme of when you're living life, you miss those things sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, and also depending upon how like open or vulnerable somebody is or isn't,
Yeah.
we can, you know, I mean, I think that that's something that's been inspiring me over the last 10, 15 years, just seeing people more honest about mental health and how much their therapist is helping them or how much, right? I mean, where it's like, but that's newer, you know, that feels newer to me. Like, it doesn't feel like that was the way of.
Well, and my first husband was a pastor, a youth pastor in a church. And it was a church that very much wanted everything to look right.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times he would say, I'm going to lose my job. That was a big thing for him. So making sure that things looked really good was important. And for the most part, we were happily married. We had a happy family. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of sad that I saw, and I think that everything kind of progressed really quickly with him with his health, with his mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. He was a great man. He was a great leader. Mm-hmm. He inspired a lot of kids. Mm. So I see all of that good in him. Mm-hmm. And after he passed away, one of the sayings that struck me that I held on to was, the way that someone died doesn't change how they lived. And he lived well.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to hear that one more time, if you don't mind, that just to breathe that in.
Sure. The way someone died doesn't change how they lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen. So that may be book 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
7. We don't know. You're on book journey number 1. And that's you talked about that's processing and sharing about your journey with Dave and Dave's journey with cancer. Yeah, if you don't mind sharing more about that.
Sure.
Anyway, I'm curious. And
yeah, I always say that Matt was my partner. We built a family together. We built a life together. And Dave was my adventure, because he showed up and just kind of shook up my whole world. And the things that I thought were black and white and easy, he would say, oh no, let's just splash some color on that. Let's change that all up. And so there was a lot that I felt like when I met him was difficult. Like, this isn't how people do things, kind of thing. But he marched to his own drum and he did his own thing. And it was one of the things I loved about him. So when he got sick, it was much of that same thing, where my goal was, you're sick and we need to get you better. We need you to live the longest amount of time that you can possibly live on earth. Mm-hmm. And when he shifted that, when he said, oh, that's not actually the goal that I have. My goal isn't just to live as long as I can possibly live, but that I'm either going to beat this or I'm gonna walk away from it, walk away from life, mm-hmm. basically. Mm-hmm. So he did things like, he did chemotherapy 4 times, and then he said, oh, I'm not gonna do that anymore. And for me, I'm like, no, this is going to keep you alive longer. And he said, no, I don't like how it makes me feel. And I don't like how I can't remember things well. And so I'm just not going to do that anymore. He would do things like that all the time, where I would just go, wait a minute, we need to do these things. So really it was an eye-opening experience for me. It was super growing, just to be able to say, okay, this is your journey and I'm just a partner on it. I have to honor the choices that you're making, things like that.
Yeah, that takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. He was my adventure.
Yeah. 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 So his unique spirit. Yeah. You said he brought this color and excitement to your world, to a more black and white world. This is what you said, it was like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to try this. It's going to,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are a couple like, or what's a memory that like of Dave that brings you like great joy?
So when the night I met him, he told me that he was never getting married and that he would never date a girl with 5 kids. And so I remember that whole conversation being kind of fun, and just feeling really safe with him, especially because he didn't want to date me. That felt kind of easier. So then he'd call me and say, hey, do you want to grab a beer with me? And I'm like, sure, I'll have a beer with you. You don't want to date me, so we're good. And then I got a super crush on him. So we used to do things like take trips together. The first trip we ever really went on was a cruise that he had won through his work or something. And he ended up, we got off the boat in Mexico, and this is in my book, but we get off the boat in Mexico, and throughout the day I end up getting back on the boat, and he actually missed the boat in Mexico, didn't make it back on, and just the whole,
from the port he was left at the port.
He never came back, and they were like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to wait here with him? And I'm like, I'm not waiting for him in Mexico. I'm getting back on the boat. And so just the whole scariness of not knowing where he was, if he was alive.
Yeah.
But for the rest of his life, we were like, who misses the boat? Who doesn't get back on the boat? Dave doesn't get back on the boat.
The adventurous one.
Exactly.
Right.
Whatever time it is, I'll make it back. And
I feel like what I've heard you share about him in past conversations, just that he wasn't worried about time. Like he was just like if he was having a conversation with somebody or like just having fun with somebody, it was like time kind of just.
That was exactly.
Yeah.
So many people after he passed away said, Dave was my best friend. Dave was my best friend. And I believe firmly that Dave was everybody's best friend. Dave was my best friend, because when you were in front of him, you were the most important person to him. It didn't matter what else was going on anywhere else, which as his wife was sometimes kind of annoying, but it was
real
just
talk. Real talk. Yeah.
Hey, are you coming home today? Or, oh, I got lost in this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was a powerful spirit.
Yeah, and say more. You talked about like now there's like this over this last few years, it's been this knowing, this becoming that has been. Well, you talked about the shedding, and then this is like the what's the word you said? This is like the new layers, or like the new self-awareness of like, this is who Elizabeth is. This is like a deeper knowing or something. Yeah.
So we definitely went through a lot of alternative healing things through Dave's cancer. And one of the things that I looked at was Reiki. And I didn't know anything about it, but I started reading about it. So I read a couple of books, and I said one night, I go, I'm gonna heal you with my hands. So I just need you to lay still. And I had just read about it. Yeah. And I go up to him, and I'm putting all my hands in the hand positions and doing all the textbook things to do for Reiki. And I'm not feeling anything, and he's not feeling anything. And about 20 minutes in, he goes, babe, could we just be done with this now? And I go, yeah, that's fine. We can be done with it. Because I didn't know it was supposed to happen. Yeah. I just was doing what it said to do. Yeah. So after he passed, one of the things I did was I looked more into Reiki, and I learned that you have to actually be attuned. And it's a person to person, so that you understand better intuitively the energy. And so I've been attuned now, and that was a huge part of me healing. So I got my level 1, and I learned how to Reiki on myself and plants and animals. And then level 2 is when you learn to work on other people. And then I got to my master level, where you can teach other people how to do Reiki and attune other people to that energy. So that was a huge healer for me. I also got my yoga certification to teach yoga, and that was a big thing for me. We went to actually Carlsbad, and we had about 2 weeks there, 2 or 3 weeks, and there was 10 women in a house together, and we basically every day we learned new things, and then at night we would study, and then of course we had fun with it. And while I was there, my yoga friends put me on Bumble and said, you need to start dating. And I was like, wait, what? And so Bumble was kind of safe because no boys could talk to me. I could only talk to them. So that was a good dipping my toe in the dating pool. But just being able to use the yoga for healing myself, and then teaching and showing people and growing and expanding. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah. So, and you also said AFT was throughout all of this as well. It was like.
Sure. I went to, actually this was in Carlsbad too. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might do all my healing work in Carlsbad. I went to, it was about a month after Dave passed away, maybe 6 weeks or so. I went to a Young Living yoga retreat out there, and Dr. Perkis was there again, and I had already failed my AFT certification once or twice at least by that point. And he was there, and he gave his talk the same as he had done the last time, and I went up to him and I just said, hey, can I just talk to you for a minute? My husband just passed away, and it was kind of it was traumatic. We were in the Philippines, and we were getting treatment there, and so being in a different country and all that when he passed was traumatic. So I kind of brought that up to him, and he said, let's have lunch together. And so we went, and he worked through AFT with me through the whole lunch hour. So I had kind of a one-on-one session with him, and that was huge for me. And one of the most interesting things was the trauma from Dave dying mirrored also the trauma from my first, my dog.
Yeah. Dogs are pumped up over in Phoenix. They're like, mom's talking about some big stuff right now.
I thought they were going to be so good.
They might have seen a what are they called? Oh, I was thinking about the little quail. Maybe they saw a quail outside.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what they saw.
Or you've been doing enough Reiki on them that now they're hearing you and seeing you as you share.
But what was interesting with that AFT session was that it reflected back both the death of my first husband and also the death of my dad, there was a lot of recurring energies for me that I needed to process that I wasn't aware of until then.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, as you're sharing, I'm thinking, well, first off, so anybody who's listening, so the Reiki world, did you end up finding like an online school, or you found like a local school somewhere there in Phoenix or an individual that you got training with?
Yes, I found a local Reiki master
Okay.
who's been in the Reiki world for over 20 years.
Okay, cool.
She's still a good friend of mine, and we work together sometimes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm just thinking like, because Reiki, when I studied Reiki, I had some weird thing happen that I was like, yeah, you need to be doing Reiki, buddy. It was like you need to study that. So those people who are listening, if you've like heard of Reiki before and you're curious, I mean, feel free to obviously reach out to Elizabeth. We'll be sure to put her like Instagram handle and, how to connect with her. Those of you who are curious to know more about her journey thus far, and, or, want to book a Reiki session with her, or want to learn more about the book as it's coming out. And yeah, but I'm also just thinking about, just the Reiki. Like if that jumps out, or if AFT jumps out, you said yoga has been a huge part of your healing journey, and continues to be. I think sometimes it's like, I think honestly, sometimes as somebody comes into this world of natural wellness or whatever, or alternative modes of support, I think it's just can be a little bit overwhelming. It could be like going, if you showed up in a Walmart and you'd been, basically isolated for 3 years, and you showed up in a Walmart and you're like, holy moly, there is so much that I could get my hands on, I could buy or whatever. It's like, I think the natural wellness world sometimes for people who are just dipping their toes in can be like, wait, there's Reiki and there's AFT and there's EMDR and there's all these letters and these essential oils and yoga. You're telling me I should check out yoga? Yeah. How did you, so I mean, like the Benjamin Firkus thing the AFT felt like it was a part of, how did these modalities, those felt like, yeah, or I guess for somebody who's listening, who's like new into this natural wellness world, what would you recommend? How, as they're kind of dipping their toes in and exploring the options or exploring the tools, like, yeah, any thoughts or ideas just for somebody who's brand new to this natural wellness world, who's like, Reiki sounds cool, but what is it and how, when?
Sure. I think that it's just kind of, you take a step forward and then you take a step forward. So I started out when I was a kid, I would journal. So journaling has always been a huge part of my healing and processing, and a lot of my book, I pulled out my journals from during this time and kind of went, oh, okay. And I can look back and see it differently. Mm-hmm. So I would say grab a journal and start journaling for 10 minutes. And for me with journaling, the key is the timing of it, as opposed to, oh, I think I wrote everything that I wanted to say. Mm-hmm. Because as you journal, you start writing and it's all your conscious thoughts. And then your conscious thoughts kind of stop. And if you choose to keep your pen going, then all of a sudden you're writing stuff down. And when you go back to read it, you go, oh, I had no idea that's what was actually going on there. So I always set my timer for 10 minutes and my pen can't stop until my timer goes off. So a lot of my journals have, what I'm thinking, and then I put and I know when I put and, it's because I'm out of words. And that's when my subconscious mind kind of takes over. And going back, I can go, wow, I didn't know that's what my deal was in that situation. But It's, again, just releasing the energies that you don't need. I always say start with a journal.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Because then you're like really kind of getting a just really taking a look at yourself, as a, it's right, as to what's coming up for you. Maybe you would get some guidance through that journaling where it would be like, or it syncs up, right? You've journaled that morning and then you interact with somebody and then that person's like, oh, I'm going to a Sedona this weekend. Do you want to go with me? And you're like, yeah, I think I do need to go with you to Sedona or something, like,
Totally.
huh?
Yeah, I think that the key is not to get overwhelmed. Like you said before, it's just, they're all tools. They're different tools that we use at different times, and there's no right or wrong way to do anything. It's just taking a step. Take a step and start doing something.
Yeah. I appreciate that, because I think that's the, I think being some of the worlds in which I was raised in, where it's like, this is the correct way or whatever, and it's like, and it's really so unique. It's so unique for each of us.
Yeah.
I remember a good Christian buddy of mine who he said, he's like, Aaron, if you like listening to like worship music and that's your church, cool. If you like reading scripture, and then cool. If you like being outside in nature, cool. Like he was just more of like, where you feel connected to spirit, to love, to God, whatever language a person may choose, like, and I always appreciated that. So I kind of hear you saying similar, like, it's not like, first you're going to do this for 2 months. And then once you get to that point, then you're going to decide. Yeah. Well, I hear you saying that it's like these modalities have been crucial.
Crucial is a good word. Yes.
As of what you've walked through, what you've experienced thus far in your journey, it's like these modalities have been so supportive. And I even heard you even said like the yoga world, like coming to do that yoga training here and that community, right? That connected you. And then you talked about the AFT world where you got into AFT and you were at Java Grounds and you were telling everybody you started practicing it, and it was these things that really spoke to you.
Well, I feel like at the end of the day, it's always about our tribe. It's always about our community.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that we serve, and those are the people that serve us at the same time.
Yeah. So as I'm going to shift into another question or two, but I want to, so death, life, death, birth, other folks who are listening, who are walking through it, obviously a unique journey for all. What might you offer? Or those of us who haven't had it necessarily touched so close to home. I'm going to go see my grandma, and I think I'm actually going to get to see her through a window in a few days, and not actually get to like be in the same space with her. And I pray that I get to see her 14 times more, but I don't know. And so it's like, what might you offer, given your life journey thus far? Like, what might you offer to those of us or people who are walking through something heavy right now?
So my mom reads tarot cards.
Okay.
And she used to, put the cards out, and there were 2 cards that always stood out to me. One was the death card, and the other it's called the Tower. And when you look at the art, the death card kind of is scary. And when you look at the tower card, it's literally a tower and it has fire and flames and people are jumping out of the tower.
Okay.
And whenever those would come up, I would go, oh, not the death card, not the tower card. And my mom always used to say, they're not bad, they're just change. The tower card isn't about bad things, it's just about change things. The death card isn't about bad, it's just about change. And so I have held on to that. I think that we're so quick to say, this is a good thing that's happening, this is a bad thing that's happening. These are good feelings, these are bad feelings. This is positive, this is negative. And I think if we can enter into things without judging them, without deciding if they're good or bad, just allowing them to be, that's the best way that we can handle something. So death is hard, and it is a shifting and a changing. And it's not something that you are excited to jump into, but it doesn't have to be bad. It can be change. It can be, this is what it is. I don't know if that helps.
I mean, that helps me. I'm sure, I know that's going to help somebody. Yeah. Yeah.
I had a spiritual guide one day. She and I were chatting. She's somebody that I go to a lot when I'm like, I just need to figure this thing out. I need to process this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to her shortly after Dave passed away. And one of the things she said was, you're going to be so much closer to him now than you were when he was alive. And I feel like that has rung true for me. Just he's always with me now. He's always here. I can always just say, hey, I'm missing you. And I feel him. So.
Whew. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for diving in. Thank you for diving in. I'm excited for your book.
Me too.
Excited for your book. And we'll have to keep listeners updated as that comes to be and where they can get that and everything here in the coming weeks, months. Yeah.
I'm expecting an early November release.
Okay.
And it'll be on Amazon, and it'll be on Kindle. Amazon and Kindle.
Oh, cool.
So you can buy a paperback, or you can just buy it for your Kindle.
Amazing.
I'm excited.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a little yeah, I mean, holy moly. I'm like, okay, that's just so good. That's just what you've been sharing has been so helpful. And I just know, like, yeah, I know that yeah, this has meant a lot to me just listening to what you've shared thus far. Yeah, I think what would I say? I'm thinking, I'm like, how do I transition? This is, I'm usually just like so fluid and easy with transition, but I'm like, wow, that's just so like raw, and I just want to kind of breathe that in. So I just think, thank you to you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And those of you who are on listening, like, thanks for being on here listening and being a part of this growth and this change and this expansion and this painful, sometimes downright hard life death journey that we're all kind of walking together. And I just am thankful for your voice, that you're able to, be able to share, being able to share with us and let us in. And, so thank you for that.
I feel honored. I feel honored to be here. I feel honored to share.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I want to shift into so you've talked about some community and tribe being important to you. As you've and AFT world and Reiki and yoga, are there authors, are there movies, are there Instagram people? No, are there people that you like really resonate with, that just like that you're really excited about as of late, or here in the last 5 years, that you've just like, or the last few years, that somebody just keeps speaking to you, or you watched a movie that was like a game shifter. Um, anyway, I'm just kind of curious on that front. I know that, or a podcast that you've been listening to that you're like, holy moly, this has been huge for me. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. I know you say you journal a lot. I'm curious what you're taking, if you're taking in podcasts or books or audibles or anyway.
So I'm horrible with movies because I always fall asleep. My kids make fun of me. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna make us watch something you want to watch, and you're gonna watch it for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna be done."
And just relax.
Yeah, yeah.
They put you to sleep.
But I do love to read.
Okay.
My favorite book probably is The Four Agreements. I have little copies of it all around because I give it to people all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Four Agreements, and then the Fifth Agreement, and the Five Attachments, or all the Don Miguel stuff. I really appreciate that. The Book of Joy. Have you seen that one? It's I think it's Desmond Tutu maybe, or
Okay.
and the Dalai Lama, and that was one of the ones that I read during our cancer journey, and it was kind of that whole these things are happening, but they don't have to be seen as bad things, and just kind of you're living your life. So the Book of Joy is probably one of my favorites too.
Wow.
Danielle Laporte, do you know her? She's a light worker.
I've just heard her on a few occasions.
Yeah, so she does like these free meditations on her Facebook page and stuff like that, and I jump into there every time I can, because I think part of it is just her voice, and she's Canadian and her accent is kind of cool, and so she just kind of
go live and do a meditation.
She does, yeah, pretty regularly.
I would love a tag the next time you see, or I just need to.
Okay.
I need to follow her.
I'll tag you. It's
or
good.
tag me. Yeah, tag me.
Right now I'm currently in the middle of The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Have you read that one?
No, just heard amazing things.
Yeah. So far completely amazing. And I put it out on Facebook, and a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I'm doing that with my book club." And so they're already like all the way through, almost to the end. So she was like, "Well, I'm going to email you the questions." And so now she and I are one-on-one meeting just to talk about the book, because it's so powerful.
So good.
So, and then the Insight Timer app is one that I use a lot. So there's a new course on there about imposter syndrome, which is something that I've dealt with. I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with that. And so that one is what I'm going through right now, but just kind of cool courses on there. So, yeah.
So helpful. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama.
Yeah. The Book of Joy, it's called.
Book of Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Four Agreements and the Fifth Agreement. Which of the Four Agreements, those of you who are listening who haven't read the Four Agreements, don't take anything personal. What else? Don't make assumptions.
Don't make assumptions. Always do your best.
Yep.
And it's about your voice.
Yeah. Be impeccable with our word.
Be impeccable with your word. Yeah.
Which one is like the easiest for you? Which one's the hardest?
For me, I think always do your best is one that I can align with, probably because I always say, well, your best is different every day. And
Yeah.
so I feel like, well, I did my best today. And I feel like most of the time that's probably truth, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some days my best is I got out of bed and I took a shower today and then I got back in my bed.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
It's not normal, but I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
And some days I'm like out of bed and kicking ass and writing names and whatever.
Totally.
So
So always do your best. Yeah. I love how he shares about that, because it is like, I think is like a friggin' perfectionist or whatever, you make up these stories about what your best is. And then you're constantly like, oh, didn't get it. Oh, didn't get it. Oh, didn't get it. And it's like, no, that is a horrible way to live, Aaron. So I loved it when I read it. I'm like, oh, it changes. It changes based upon what's going on in your world.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, that seems so much more sane and healthy.
Yeah. And I also kind of feel like I'm of the idea that we're all doing our best. We're all doing the best we can with the tools that we have every day.
Yeah.
I don't think I know very many people that are just not trying. I think we're all trying.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you.
The hardest
one. Yeah. What's the hardest one?
The hardest one for me is definitely my words. Being impeccable with my words. There's so many times that I will shush myself, that I think, oh, I need to say this thing, and I don't say it, and people will even look at me and go, did you want to put some words to that? And I always go, no, I don't. And really, like, I'm finding my voice currently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are.
I had a business coach maybe a year or two ago, and she said something like, she said, you have a powerful voice and people need to hear what you have to say. And I started crying when she said it, because I couldn't believe that people wanted to hear what I had to say. So that's like something that I have written on my mirrors. You have a powerful voice and people need to hear what you have to say.
Yes,
so,
we do. Yes,
we do.
Yes, we do. Yeah, you do have a powerful voice. And we need to hear, we need to hear you. So grateful for your voice. It's, okay. Yeah. So that's be impeccable with your word. Just continuing to say yes to, that's right in your book, right?
Yeah.
Beginning of November, this is all part of that. So proud of you for doing that.
Yeah. Even my cousin is one of my editors right now. And I texted her today and I said, I'm going on this podcast about my book. And I said, am I really publishing a book? Is my writing good enough? And I didn't hear from her for like maybe an hour after I sent the text. And I'm like, I'm canceling the podcast. I can't do it. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then when she answered me, she said, heck yes, do it. And, so just kind of that little reinforcement of like, yeah, your words are powerful.
Totally. Right? I think about so many of, so many of, I'm sure, listeners who are like, oh, I wanted to write that book, or I thought about doing that. It's like, so it's always inspiring for me to be in the presence of people who are taking the courageous steps to put pen to paper and fingers to keyboard or whatever, and write it down, put it down. And I think, it's that somebody somewhere is desperate to hear our voice, is desperate to hear your voice. Like, it's just like, oh, I've got to hear, like, if I just were to hear Elizabeth's voice today, it could totally shift everything. And that's what I'm loving. Just having this interaction with you right now. It's like, yes. There's somebody needed to hear your reflections today, to make that, like you said, that one step, right? It's like,
I hope that my voice is a blessing to people.
yeah,
That's my intention.
yeah, yeah, so good. It's yeah, yeah. That's Four Agreements. It's a good book. That is a good book. It's a good book.
Powerful.
Yeah. I probably struggle the most with taking things personally. Whew. But that all goes back to childhood, shocker. Shocker.
Yeah, it all does.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much everything goes back to then. Where we get these messages, whether they're verbal or nonverbal, we're getting the messages just like through and through, right?
Yep.
It's like such a trip to unravel. Yeah. Yeah. So so you've shared about, so because I'm thinking like other people of your tribe, that have been huge. I mean, you shared about three very huge men in your world that impacted your world incredibly and continue to. And as far as your tribe goes, your friendships go, or like somebody that you've connected with where you're like, whoo, that there's that energy exchange that's something special for you, that's touched you. I mean, is there a person or in your life journey up till now? Like, I mean, your mom's rocking tarot cards. I mean, you've got Benjamin Perkis rocking lunch with you and doing some AFT work, supporting you.
Sure.
You've had lots of beautiful people in your world. I'm curious if there's anybody that, like one or two that.
I think your sister is a powerhouse to me. Like whenever I need like business help or I just need to vent and get stuff off my, like she's amazing. She's somebody that I go to a lot. And then I think I told you my I always call her my spiritual guide. I don't really know. I met her in Sedona. Probably 15 years ago now, and I go to her pretty frequently too. There was one time I was sitting with her and she's like, you know, you don't need me, like you can figure all this out yourself. And I was like, yeah, anyways, let's just have our conversation.
Oh goodness, right.
So she's good for me. They say like the 5 people you spend the most time with influence you the most. So for me, my 5 people are my kids. I'm constantly with them, and I think that we have a mutual influence. Might be good, might be not so good.
Learning.
They do inspire me for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you had a room full of 20,000 and this could be like at the end of at the end of your presentation, you've been sharing a little bit about your book, about your life journey up till now. What are like 2 or 3 ideas, perspectives that you would want somebody to chew on, whether they don't need to believe what you believe necessarily, but like you would want them to like, what would you leave people with?
So I texted my kids when I saw that you were going to ask this question. I texted my kids.
Yep.
And I just said, so I just asked my 3 older kids.
Okay.
So I said, what are the 3 most valuable things that I have taught you? And my oldest is 23. And he said, to be ourselves, to love others, and to chase our dreams. And I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yes. Yes.
And then my daughter, who's 20, she said, how to say no, be financially independent and smart, and realistically how to speak, read, and write. So I thought that was funny.
That's great.
And then my Jacob is 19.
Okay.
And he said, you taught me that it's okay. Oh,
Bless you.
bless you. He said, you taught me that it's okay to feel what you feel, how to be confident in myself, and to keep going through adversity. So I feel like those are probably the things that I focus on the most, and those are the things that I would hopefully share with 20,000 people if I share with my most important people.
Yeah. Yeah, go mom.
Yeah, I wasn't sad when they said those things.
Yeah, those are amazing. Those are amazing. Yeah. Yeah, those are all really, really awesome. And could help any of us, you know. It's like which yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you asked them.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
that really does. It's like what have you felt and experienced and heard me say over and over again, or encourage you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The dog's pumped too. The dog's excited.
Completely.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great. Those are great.
No, I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just proud of you. I'm just proud of you for the way you continue to use your voice. And I'm so grateful that you were willing to hop on this call and this podcast and this YouTube channel and share a little bit. And those people who are like touched and resonate and get excited and want to learn more, we'll make sure we put your info somewhere in the description or whatever, and make sure that they can connect. And
that would be awesome.
Yeah. And we'll all keep our eyes out for your book. And coming in November.
Yes.
The goal release date. I see it.
Yeah, with the Aries moon, of course.
Super good. Super good. What? Yeah. All right. Well, that's my closing question that I always love to like just leave on. So I appreciate your kiddos got to chime in on that, and yeah, those are beautiful. And I think that what a call to all of us. I think what if I could recount, and then if you want to chime in any last thoughts in, but change. That this, that change is part of the path. And so how do we walk through that? And how do we, I hear you, what I hear you modeling is there are tools available to support us, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean on others, and to also find these tools, grab your journal, grab your yoga mat, and like, as you're walking through heavy changes, that like there are tools available, and it doesn't necessarily mean that then you're going to be smiling the next 49 days in a row or something, it's like, but just to know that there are tools to support us as we walk through life together.
Definitely. Just being our authentic selves, doing our best every day. Showing up and being you. I think that's all we can all do.
Yeah. Well, I'm cheering you on, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm really, really grateful for this conversation. And those of you who caught this on YouTube or on the podcast, really grateful to have you join us on episode 12 with Elizabeth Oldershaw. And here's to our healing. Here's to all of us, just one day at a time, putting one foot in front of the other, saying yes to our worthiness, and yes to our voice, and yes to our community.